Time for season 4, the season that changed everything. Now, this is going to be hard for me to keep it down in like less than 20 minutes. Obviously, you know why, because I've analyzed the shit out of the season 4's main plot line and all that. So, anyway, season 4 started on September 7th, 2004, and ended on Valentine's Day 2005. Ironically, September 7th, 2004 was actually the first day of college for me because I went to college. I went to college. So basically, it it dealt with bullying, dysfunctional families, school shootings, mental disorders, STDs, disabilities. I guess wheelchair. I think gambling, homosexuality, and inappropriate student-teacher relationships. Well, the bullying is for Rick. Dysfunctional families, I don't really know about. School shootings, that definitely was Rick. Mental disorders, that was definitely Emma. STDs, Emma. Disability, Jimmy. Gambling, Ellie. Homosexuality, Marco. And student teacher relationship, Paige with Mr. O. Every episode is named after a title is for a song of the 80s, except for Going Down the Road, the two-part season finale, which took its name from the 1970 Canadian film Going Down the Road. The first 6 seasons of episode 4 aired Tuesdays at 8 and 8:30 p.m. before it was at 8 p.m. before moving to the 8:30 time slot. It actually moved after Christmas to Mondays at 8:30. The end had it and all that. So basically, season 4 was one of the most successful for viewing figures. 2 episodes were watched by about 1 million Canadian viewers. I can probably guess which two. And up the season garnered an average attendance of 600K, the most viewed domestic drama in Canada. In the United States, one episode had 500,000 people. Only 3 awards were won for the season out of 9. Season 4 is considered the darkest and most controversial season of the show due to multiple storylines that dealt with harsh and dark issues, especially Time Stand Still, which had a school shooting. This was the only season the series did not add any new characters. So out of the 22 episodes, Craig was actually in 21 of them. Wow, Craig was in all but one episode. Manny was in 18. Emma and Marco were tied for third with 17. So yeah, so you had a lot of people and all that. So the crew, reception, school shootings. A season high, all-time high episode, 930,000 Canadian viewers. And the second episode was just under 1 million. Oh, this was, I guess, Secret Part 2 or Secret Part 1. I don't know. So anyway, overall it hit 600K. In the US, the season had an 80% larger audience in season 3, obviously because of the Time Stand Still thing. On average, 2.7% of US teenagers and 4.7 nations female teenagers were tuning in every time. It was well received, especially because of Kevin Smith and the storylines on oral sex and school shooting. Basically, yeah. So anyway, the season premiere was an hour-long episode called Ghost in the Machine. CTV broadcast episodes 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 20 and 21 on the same night, not on special shows. So basically, Ghost in the Machine was first, and then King of Pain / Mercy Street the same day. Anywhere I Lay My Head / Islands in the Stream was that, and then I guess the Kevin Smith one. Okay, second block. Well, they always did it in 2 different blocks. First episode is Ghost in the Machine. With the new school year on the horizon, Paige gets a summons to testify against Dean when the rape case finally comes to trial after 2 years. She soon learns that the legal system is not perfect when Dean is acquitted of all charges. Angry by the outcome, she seeks revenge against him, which could affect Spinner. Craig celebrates his birthday, gets $10,000 from his father's will, and decides to spend it on an extravagant guitar, much to Joy's disapproval. So the subplot was that Craig got the $10,000 and he wanted a new guitar and all that. Joey was hoping that Craig would give him the $10,000 to save Joey's business and his house and all that. But unfortunately, Craig had the right decision. Ghost in the Machine, obviously, is when Paige has her rape trial finally done. Unfortunately for Paige, her withdrawal from telling people about it was basically his downfall. So after all that, so basically Paige is upset that the justice system wasn't going to help her out, but didn't realize that all she had to do was just basically tell Miss Sove, and she would have had to tell Miss Sove would have had to say something in confidentiality to the courts. That could have helped ruin Dean. Of course, Dean brags about it. Paige crashes her car, Spinner's car into his car. Spinner gets arrested, but Paige takes the rap for everything. Next episode is called King of Pain. I thought it was Eye versus Eye, but anyway, King of Pain. It's when Marco comes out to his mom and actually runs for student council president. But the trouble is that Alex is running against him. Alex thinks she's going to win because she's not a conformist, and she has to trick up the sleeve about outing him to not only the school but his homophobic father. So practically, that happens. So anyway, Marco does win the election. He named Alex his vice president. Chris actually wants to get back together with Emma. I completely forgot. I completely didn't know that. Chris wants to get back with Emma, but Emma's not interested until Chris goes with Liberty. Basically, Emma thinks that her popularity will wane if Chris is with Liberty. So she does everything in her power to ruin Chris and Liberty, even though it might be that Chris might not go near Liberty. Unfortunately, Emma falters as her plan ruins it, and basically Liberty and Manny make a persona non grata. Next is Mercy Street. That's when Rick comes back to the school. Rick returns to school, and Emma's popularity actually increases when she leads the 11th graders into trying to run Rick out of Degrassi for good. JT actually compares himself with Craig and uses a you-know-what, a penis pump. That was kind of sickening and all that. So anyway, yeah, Mercy Street was huge because Rick got back to the school. Basically, Marco and Alex were trying to tell Radich that it's a bad idea, but Radich had the right idea because, there were no criminal charges. No one bothered to lay criminal charges, and I think if criminal charges were being laid, the school board and or the police would have had to talk to Radich, and Radich probably would have not been allowed to bring Rick back to the school. Although Radich could have probably brought back Rick into the school with conditions, and we don't even know about it. So basically, everyone is angry that Rick's allowed to come back after what he did to Terry. Of course, there was also the problem that was off school grounds, and people don't want to do paperwork. So Emma, without Liberty and Manny in her life, basically decides to join Paige's clique to destroy Rick, get him out of school, with an orange ribbon campaign, a silent campaign that basically follows the rules. Sadly, though, Emma does not know about how bad the students take this orange ribbon campaign. Rick tries to donate money to the cause. Emma is ready to rip up the check before Alex basically shoos them both away, saying that you're not allowed to buy your forgiveness and you're not allowed to take forgiveness. And Alex explains that she knows more of the cause than Emma, which is obvious because Alex's mom unfortunately gets pulverized by her boyfriends. So anyway, Emma is told not to go anywhere near Rick. Emma trips up Rick, basically trying to get everyone to say, oh, Emma's cool and all that. Rick goes up to Emma, but the boys think that Rick's going to beat up on Emma, so they pound him into a grindstone. Emma basically shoos him away, saying no cause is worth this. She loses everybody. So basically she's friendless. Rick is happy that someone stood up for him, and he actually has an attraction to Emma, although Emma was trying to do the right thing. All that. Oh, by the way, Danny Van Sant is introduced in season 4. So anyway, yeah. So the 5th episode was called Anywhere I Lay My Head. Ellie doesn't know what to do with her mother's drinking, so she decides to move in with Sean because of her mother. Manny is now part of the school's car wash and actually grows closer to the Spinner. This was actually Darcy's first appearance in the show, which is nice. Islands in the Stream is basically when Paige actually has to work to pay off Spinner's car damage after what she did to get revenge on Dean. Meanwhile, Rick and Toby are actually partnered up in class, leading to a bet to see who could get more kisses from the girls at school. So basically, they bet on Dungeons and Dragons dice. Toby obviously wins because it's basically a weirdo or a violent boy. Toby does give Darcy $5 to kiss Rick, trying to feel sorry for Rick. But unfortunately, Toby gets beat up for it. And then, of course, Time Stands Still, parts 1 and 2. Rick is trying to stand up for himself and gains respect from people, including Jimmy. Unfortunately, Spinner, Jay, and Alex want to teach him a lesson. And Joey has to sell his house and has to deal with Sydney, his ex-girlfriend and realtor, to help because Craig wants to help Joey, so he gets Sydney to help. Joey basically gets angry at Craig. Craig goes to school despite being sick. And of course, he sees Rick's dead body. I mean, Jimmy's body and all that. It was so sad to see. I mean, Joey jumped to conclusions, and he knew he did. He wanted to apologize to Craig and all that. And of course, with that happening. So anyway, Time Stands Still, part 1, Rick actually decides to stand up for himself and retaliate, but unfortunately, he gets Paige, Spinner, and Alex's ire, not Paige, Alex Spinner. Alex Spinner and Jay's ire, and of course, those three are even more pissed when the fact that Jimmy, who was supposed to be on their side, switches sides to be with Rick. Rick manages to get Jimmy to tell him these things. And of course, I always say that he said something about Toby being hurt too, but I don't think there was evidence of that. So, man, I suck. So anyway, Rick wins the Whack Your Brain thing for Degrassi. Unfortunately, Paint and Feathers come flying down. Everyone laughs at him. Emma assures him that no one's going to remember this. Rick decides to kiss Emma, and Emma tells him off. In part 2, Rick's public humiliation sends him over the edge, which causes him to go back to school armed with a gun and looking for revenge. As innocent people are caught in the destructive path, the unthinkable happens, and nothing in Degrassi will ever be the same again. So practically, what ends up happening in this episode is that Rick takes a gun to school and goes after Paige first, even though Rick's still in his Paint and Feathers thing. Paige does mention how sickening things are, and it should never have happened. And Rick realizes that Paige could not have done it and apologizes for what he did to Terry. And she hears him. So basically, Rick goes to the bathroom to clean himself up. Unfortunately, Jay and Spinner basically pin things on Jimmy, mostly because they wanted to get Rick off their scent, and also because Jimmy switched sides on them. So Rick shoots Jimmy in the back, goes after Emma, basically wants Emma dead for spurning him. Sean is a hero and saves the day. Rick unfortunately dies. Toby is really upset because his best friend turned out to be a psycho. There's discussions on what the staff did, how the staff missed opportunities to help Rick, especially Radich. The students feel bad. Spinner wants to confess everything because he just realized that, they pinned everything on Jimmy, and Rick had a gun, and Rick obviously had reason to shoot Jimmy. So yeah, it was huge. Back in Black is the 9th episode in season 4. It's in the aftermath of the school shooting. Sean is a hero. But when his mom's interviewed on TV, Emma, Ellie, and Jay go to Wasaga to confront his past. Basically, what ends up happening is that, Sean wants answers to see why his parents got him to Toronto. But that's because Sean was in trouble for deafening a kid in Wasaga Beach, and they didn't want Sean to go to jail. Sean, unfortunately, has a jet ski accident, and the boy he deafened, he works as a lifeguard and saves him. Turnabout's fair play. Thank goodness for that. So basically, he realizes when he was having life and death that he was taking the shooting back, and that he was shocked, mostly for the fact that, he had killed a kid. Although the police definitely would never have gone after him because it was in self-defense, and, Sean didn't know that. So Sean decides to stay in Wasaga Beach to deal with the shooting and all that. Meanwhile, Toby wants to go to Rick's funeral, but is shunned by JT and Danny, and a lot of other characters probably too. Practically, so Toby basically feels bad, worrisome. He's like, should I be Rick's friend or am I not Rick's friend? Basically, it was hard to imagine Toby, fighting with things. I mean, JT and Danny do pick on him, and Danny does give JT what for, because, because JT abandoned Toby for Danny. So Manny go to the visitation with Toby. And it seems like they're the only Degrassi representation, I think, because of either guilt or basically some other shit going on. It's also imperative that, Emma wants to be near Sean because, Sean saved her life. I mean, I think Emma did kind of know that Ellie and him were an item, but I mean, Emma felt praise that Sean would stick up for her. And I said that not many people probably would. Next episode is Neutron Dance. Downtown Sasquatch has to use their band thing, their recording contract. Craig decides to ask Ashley to join the band, and Paige actually has a crush on Mr. Matt Orlander. Voices carries a two-part episode. The lead story is about Ashley and Craig's relationship. Ashley's dad is getting a gay wedding, and she reconciles with Craig by losing her virginity to him. But Ashley is rubbed the wrong way when Craig exhibits weird behavior. And Ashley does realize that Craig's mood swings are more than she thought, as he spirals into a deep depression because he wants to marry Ashley, and Ashley obviously says no. So Craig basically goes off on a spending spree with Joey's credit card. Like, he doesn't know what to think. He's trying to get Ashley back, but nothing happens. He wants to give the money back to Joey and run off to Vancouver before Joey finds him because, but Joey understands it and tries to calm Craig down by saying, "You're my son," and all that. And then, of course, the backstory is that JT and Liberty tried to put on a play to raise school spirits, that being Dracula. It is a good play. Unfortunately for those two, Radish puts a kibosh on it. Not cancel, not delay it, but cancel it altogether. I mean, the timing was terrible because of the school shooting. Fine. But anyway, it doesn't matter anymore as, Liberty and JT decide to take Radish to task because I guess off screen he exhibits bad behavior and all that, and the students really don't have confidence in him. They refuse to sing the song for fear of expulsion, as Alex bluntly puts it. So Liberty sings the song in Radish's face. Radish basically puts them into money detention. They actually get closer together and are a couple. Then comes Bark at the Moon. Manny is attracted to Chester, a new guy, and Sue wonders about Spinner. Meanwhile, Paige wants to be with Mr. O, and he's actually interested in her. Of course, what the storyline doesn't say is that this is the episode that we saw the last of Mr. Radish. Radish is basically reassigned in the face of his inattentiveness during the school shooting and all that. It's still debatable, but he definitely was gone after the shooting. Basically, he mishandled Rick, and that was the last straw. I mean, and also the aftermath as well. It also laid at everyone's feet. So Ms. Hatzalakos is the new principal, and she decides to get Marco and Paige's input. Well, it ends up being Marco and Manny because Paige is too busy with Mr. O. And basically, they talk about some ideas. And then Miss H says, we need to put Dracula on for the students. Raj does lead to a decent farewell and all that. Obviously, he won't tell the students why he's left. I mean, that's just hearsay. And a lot of people said that, Simpson obviously wanted to destroy Radish and all that. But I don't think so. I think Simpson wanted Radish to basically admit to his shortcomings because, it's all about accountability with the adults and that. And, Snake and Radish in the background shook hands. I mean, I think it was just basically, they both understood what was going on. Next is Secret. That's when the two-parter when Emma basically hasn't come to terms with her problems. She assures everyone's okay, but basically she's not. Jay begins to arouse her interest. She gives in to them. And then after having sex with Jay, she actually feels good about herself, Emma does, but it's a gonorrhea attack. She's worried she has it too, and basically she gets shunned by the students around Dracula because of her condition or that. And Emma realizes she's not fine. She needs to go to the STD clinic, and obviously she probably goes to see a therapist and all that. Meanwhile, Ashley decides to give Craig a chance to have a support group with his bipolar disorder, but Craig runs into Ellie. Jimmy actually wants to see his favorite band, and so Craig and Marco try to break him out of the hospital. Eye of the Tiger is when Jimmy gets released from hospital. He's in a wheelchair. He can't walk, but he's alive. Everyone's happy except Spinner because he has to decide whether to lose a friend by confessing his role in the shooting or to stay quiet and feel guilty. Danny has a hard time dealing with JT and Liberty's relationship, and of course Liberty's parents too. But Danny realizes that his sister should be happy, so he accepts it. So of course, Spinner tries to make Jimmy feel good about himself. Jimmy feels good, but then Jimmy realizes that he's not the same person. Spinner tries to get Jimmy to relax. So Spinner decides to cheer Jimmy up by telling him the truth about the fact that they were, like he and Jay were in the bathroom. They convinced Rick to go after Jimmy to try to get off their own scent, and basically he got shot. So the students know this. So basically what ends up happening is a lot of things going on now. So practically Jay is upset because obviously Spinner had told on him and all that. Spinner said Jimmy deserved to know. So they get drunk, they crash Jimmy's welcoming party, and Spinner wants Jimmy to bite his head off. Jimmy basically says that you're not my true friend. A best friend would leave his other friend, to basically be in trouble. All that. And the fact is, you didn't try to help me. You had to help yourself because you had all this freaking guilt and all that. I don't care about you anymore. You're dead to me. So with that, Spinner decides to tell the truth and basically out him and Jay as conspirators and all that for zero tolerance. However, Jay has it wrong. Spinner didn't tell Hatzalakos about Jay and the fact that basically they pinned things on Jimmy. All that. Because obviously, if that had happened with the school board, they would have had to talk to the police, and Jane Spinner probably would have been in deep trouble with the cops. Next episode, number 17, is Queen of Hearts. Is when Ellie tries to earn money playing euchre, trying to pay the rent. Obviously, with Sean absent. She doesn't know what to do. Alex helps her out, and Alex actually tells Ellie that her mother needs her, so Ellie moves back home. Meanwhile, Paige and Matt's secret affair blossoms. But Paige is wondering about Mr. Orlander. All that. Modern Love comes in, and this is the first episode of Shantae. To know that. So basically, Paige is wondering if Mr. O's career is more important than her and all that. Because the secret relationship is... Emma has a girls' night with May, Darcy, and Shantae, but then ends up dealing with Chester and his brothers in a prank war. So anyway, secret relationship was huge because, it was an inappropriate relationship. And Paige was willing to give up lots of things, but leaving Degrassi or transferring out of the media class. It was sickening to see Paige, try to ruin her own life and all that just for a teacher. It was sickening, too. But of course, Paige and Mr. O could see each other because obviously now that Mr. O is fired as a teacher, everything's okay. Next is Moonlight Desires. Marco is, of course, upset when he's unable to donate blood because the blood drive has a rule about homosexuality and you can't donate blood if you're gay and all that. And then, worst of all, Dylan is in bed with another guy, so Marco doesn't know how to feel. Spinner and Jay, at the same time, decide to break into Degrassi to vandalize it, feeling angry that Degrassi was not willing to listen to them and basically expelled them and all that, even though they asked for it. I mean, Spinner did the right thing by confessing, but too little, too late. Spinner was trying to get courses because he didn't want to fail another year. But unfortunately, once you're expelled, your year is over and you have to take it all over again. Spinner does get some summer school courses to kind of catch up with everyone else, but he fails. West End Girls is next. The end of the school year has arrived, and Manny Page's rivalry heats up as they try to one-up each other into an epic showdown in school prom. Caitlin deals with Kevin Smith, the director, who decides to tour Degrassi School as a possible location for his latest movie, Jay and Silent Bob Go Canadian, which is kind of weird. So anyway, we get to going down the road. Degrassi goes into chaos as Kevin Smith prepares to film the new Jay and Silent Bob movie there. Craig is upset when Ashley decides to go to London for an internship. And Caitlin actually spends time with Kevin and doubting her relationship with Joey. Um, and unfortunately, Craig gets off his bipolar medication and disappears in the streets when he finds himself in trouble and Joey tries to help him out. Joey also has to deal with the fact that Caitlin is trying to deal with Kevin Smith. It's kind of strange and all that. So anyway, that's all for this season. Yeah, I know it took a long time, but my MVP is definitely Emma. I mean, you got to look at Emma's career and character change. I mean, Emma was the pretentious, nosy person who would like to butt in the first 3 seasons, but the shooting actually turned her into another character because now the old Emma was boring, bland, and not there anymore. And Emma, of course, the shooting got to her. I mean, what she perceived as trying to help a student out with bullying basically ended up being a relationship she didn't agree with and a near death experience and all that. It wouldn't be the last time that Emma's PTSD would manifest itself. I'll explain more in later seasons. But yeah, season 4 really changed a lot. And I think Emma's behavior and all that, seeing Emma, go through a metamorphosis is worth it. And how she was involved in the shooting timeline and all that. The anti-hero is obviously going to be Spinner and Jay. I know you can blame Rick, but Rick wasn't around for the full season and all that. I did it for characters that lasted the whole season. Jay and Spinner would still be in 3 more seasons after season 4. So obviously they're the villains. Rick obviously would be a villain if he stayed the whole season. Raditch would also be considered as the biggest villain of season 4, but because he didn't last the whole season, he can't possibly get it. I mean, if you want to know the top 5 people I want to blame for the shooting, is number one's Rick for basically being blissfully ignorant and not telling people about his issues. He could have got them solved. Number 2 is Jay because Jay's the one who put this bug in Spinner's ear and basically got Spinner to do stuff that Spinner didn't feel comfortable with. Spinner's number 3 because Spinner went through with everything and all that. Number 4 would definitely be Raditch because of his inattentiveness. And number 5 would be Emma because of her campaign that brought the violence to the tent. The students obviously would be number 6 and tight. It would be a tight number 6. Alex would be number 7. And the teachers would be number 8 for their failure. Basically, it was a failure on a lot of sources. And that's all there is to it. So onwards to season 5.